I, female 28, recently had my and my husband's 32 first child, a little boy. Our baby is amazing, and we are so in love with him. After the birth, we only allowed our parents and siblings to see the baby so that we could have time to settle into our new lives. We didn't want to be overrun with visitors, but we decided to host a barbecue this weekend so some more extended family and friends could meet the baby. It went really well, and everyone was so over the moon to see the little one. I'd like to clarify this wasn't a huge gathering, maybe only 10 people. At one point, I took the baby inside for his lunch. I'm currently nursing him, so I went to his nursery to have some privacy. As most people were in the backyard, I thought that this would be a quiet spot for the two of us. Unbeknownst to me, my best friend's, female 27, husband 29, needed the bathroom at some point and came into the house. I think he was having a bit of a snoop around because he opened the door to the nursery where I was with the baby, which is nowhere near the bathroom, and inevitably found us. He was quite shocked and fumbled his words a little bit before closing the door and leaving. I wasn't very happy that this had happened because I specifically had gone looking for a quiet moment so the baby could eat, but it was what it was, and I thought it was over. When I walked out of the house a little while later, I was surprised to see that my best friend and her husband had left. My husband tells me that when best friend's husband came out of the house, he immediately reprimanded my husband for the fact that I was exposing myself and acting inappropriately in front of guests. Of course, my husband was very confused by what was going on, but my best friend's husband basically just grabbed my friend and the two of them left, leaving everyone else quite stunned. A few hours after everyone had gone home, best friend's husband started a group chat with me, my husband, and my best friend, and basically said that he couldn't believe how I had exposed myself to him today when I knew he was happily married and that I should have more shame. He said that I was not setting a good example for my son, who would grow up to be some deviant because I was refusing to feed him in a normal and healthy way. I'm honestly quite upset about the whole thing, and no one has responded. My best friend has not even opened any of my other messages, but I wonder if maybe I should have just gone with a bottle feed during the event so that this would have never happened. My husband thinks best friend's husband has lost his mind, but was I the idiot? Sweet Jesus, you can feed your own child in any way you want, especially in your own home, especially in your own nursery. Your friend's husband is so wildly out of line. You should go no contact with both of them until he apologizes completely and unreservedly. Not the idiot, very much so. Best friend's husband is nuts. By his reasoning, accidentally opening a door on someone using a toilet would also be exposing yourself in public. He's trying to find a way to make sure he's blameless. This is very nasty behavior on his part. This guy is an untrustworthy snake and shouldn't be allowed near you without a full heartfelt apology and correction of what happened to everyone there, at a minimum. Yep, he didn't accidentally do anything. Either he was snooping or he went looking for her to expose her. If your friend has an issue, you might need to dump your friend. His behavior is so over the top that he should be called out for his misogyny and told that he had no right to be in the room in the first place. The fact that he used it to shame her for breastfeeding makes it sound like he did it on purpose. You were in a private room, in your own house, and we're not expecting this guy to barge into the room. It's completely unnecessary for him to venture around the house. It seems like he had a guilty conscience and told his wife his version of the story to cover his own. I was making my way directly to the bathroom when your friend jumped out in front of me, topless, and jiggling her breasts seductively. He's a total idiot who would never be invited to my house again. Good riddance. I, 33 male, am getting married next summer. I invited a friend from university to my wedding, but intentionally did not give him a +1 for his wife. His wife and I don't get on. She attended university with us, and we had our fair share of fights then, and a rather large fuss some 5 odd years ago. We live on opposite sides of our country, and we only see each other a couple of times a year, if that, for special occasions, like other friends' weddings. His wife and I can generally be cordial now, but mostly avoid or ignore one another. They got married around 4 years ago, and I was not invited to their wedding. My friend told me, in no uncertain terms, that he wanted me there, but his wife did not, and that he chose to respect her wishes on her big day. I was disappointed but understanding, and never let it affect our friendship. I'm having a big wedding, and all guests with spouses, fiancés, and serious boyfriends and girlfriends are getting +1s, except for said friend. It is not a numbers issue. I simply don't want his wife in attendance. Given the lack of a +1, I've considered the likelihood that my friend will RSVP no, but I'm okay with this outcome. I have no intention of telling him ahead of time that most others are getting a +1, but I'm aware that he's most likely going to find out. My fiancé and I obviously discussed this matter, and she's fully supportive of this decision. Other friends whom I've spoken to tell me that I'm being ruthless and should not have even invited my friend if I wasn't going to give him a +1 for his wife. So, am I the idiot? Edit. She cheated on my friend at university, and they broke up. I was not as warm to her afterward, but not outwardly mean. She wanted him back, and he asked for advice. I said, don't do it. He took her back anyways, obviously his right to do so, but I remained more distant from her. Not sure if my friend told her that I advised they remain broken up. I wouldn't be surprised, or if it was just me not being as friendly, but she turned nasty on me. 5 years ago, I called her out for her behavior after she hurt me with multiple rude comments. Alcohol was involved, and I could have handled the situation with more finesse. Our interaction ruined a wonderful evening. Once we sobered up the following day, I apologized for my part and expected the same in return. Instead, she only refused to apologize or accept any blame, but she also entirely rejected my apology. Not the idiot. You and your wife discussed it, are on the same page, and ultimately, it's your wedding, and you can invite whomever you'd like to, or not, just like your friend's wife to their wedding. Side note, I disagree with your friends regarding you shouldn't have sent the single invite to your friend. You sent him one. He's your friend. He can choose. Not sending one would have been ruthless. OP, I don't understand why you would even invite him. After a non-invite to their wedding, I consider the friendship over and be an acquaintance every now and again instead. No matter who she's married to, I wouldn't want this woman anywhere near my wedding. It would have probably have been better to invite neither and just have a private conversation with him. I suspect that he won't come, and the friendship has probably run its course, but you sound okay with that. I say you are the idiot, simply because you intentionally put your so-called friend in an untenable position. Either invite the married couple as a couple, or don't invite them at all. If you want your friend there, don't make them have to choose. And if you're okay with them not showing up, well, why then invite him in the first place? It's like you're trying to make a point or something. You're asking him to travel across the country to celebrate your wedding, but to heck with the marriage that he's in. That is petty, small behavior. Either don't invite him at all, or invite them both. If she hates you enough, she may decide she doesn't want to be there on her own. My daughter, Casey, has struggled with lying throughout her life. From little things like, I had Wendy's for lunch when she had McDonald's, up to big things like, I got into a fight at school when she didn't. We started her in therapy when she was around 8 years old to try to get to the root of it. Even she couldn't see why she was lying. We tried 3 different therapists, but they all seemed to think it was age appropriate. My husband and I focused on teaching her the repercussions of lies, making sure she knew she could come to us with anything, etc. We've always been the type to let our kids make mistakes, while knowing we'll always be there with no judgment, just there to help them do better. Things got somewhat better as she got older. There'd be the occasional small white lie, but she got better when we talked about it. When Casey came out as a lesbian at 16, we were supportive and treated her girlfriend as one of the family. Issues arose when the lying began again, and Casey became rather aggressive. We took her back to therapy, and she was diagnosed with BPD. She refused treatment. We did all we could to get her in, but she was diagnosed shortly before she turned 18, so there was very little we could do. After a really bad incident, we told her she either sought help that we'd pay for, or she had to leave. She chose to leave. A few years later, she finally agreed to accept help. She's now 23 and doing a bit better. Casey works as a DEI, Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion Manager for a company. For Pride Month, the company showcased LGBTQ+ employees sharing their stories. I was excited to read Casey's when she shared it on Facebook. My heart sank when I read it. Casey wrote that her parents weren't supportive when she came out. She added that we had kicked her out of the house for a week after she told us, but took her back in when we guilted her into it. I tried to reach out to Casey, but she didn't answer. So many people in her Facebook comment section were apologizing for her traumatizing experience. They were attacking me and my husband. I finally commented that none of this was true, and it was extremely hurtful to see this narrative spun. Casey finally replied and said I needed to remove my comment. She said it was just a way to get clicks. I said it was a lie, and she posted it so everyone could see, making us look bad. I shared how hurt I was that, yet again, she was lying for attention. She then deleted my comment for me. I made a post showing the various Pride events we went to, pictures of her girlfriend on vacation with us, even videos Casey took of herself and the two of us discussing her journey, etc. I tagged Casey in it. Some still back her up, but most have apologized to me. Her girlfriend finally called her out on it and said, I've always been nice to her. She's mad at me, saying I'm making her look bad and saying I don't understand how stuff like this works. Am I the idiot? She made you look bad when she lied about you. Were you just supposed to do nothing about that? What does she mean when she says you don't understand how stuff like this works? Not only are you not the idiot, but Casey's making it actively harder for other LGBTQ+ people. The bigots and haters are going to latch on to Casey's made-up story of trauma and use her example to belittle other people who actually have to deal with unsupportive families. OP, you may want to consider distancing yourself from her. She's actively trying to cause you and your husband harm. I know she's your daughter, but I'm worried you'd be on the receiving end of worse. Next, it might be accusations of abuse. What would you do then? You could lose everything you've built. People take this stuff seriously, and they might come after you and your husband with pitchforks next. Her next accusation could result in losing your job, reputation, maybe even police investigations, and whatever else. This is seriously concerning. I have no idea why her girlfriend didn't call her out sooner. Why did she wait? It seems like you can't count on her having your back until it's too late, despite you being accepting of her. I'm sorry this is happening. I'm 25 now, marrying the love of my life, 24 female. The wedding parties are already set. We have 4 people on each side, our siblings and best friends. Well, almost all the siblings. My brother is a groomsman, and so is one of her brothers, who's closer to my age. Her eldest brother is not in the party. The point is, the parties are pretty close, and we both agreed we didn't want a large wedding party. I don't know how some people have like 10 on each side, but I digress. My dad is a sap. He and my mom divorced when I was 7, so most of my memories are of his dating life. He tries his best, but he's very soft-spoken and can be a bit of a pushover. He's been dating Donna for about 3 years now. This is by far the most serious relationship I've seen him in, and he's planning to marry her. Donna has a 19-year-old daughter. We see my dad, Donna, and the daughter a few times a month. My dad and I went to lunch, the two of us, when he mentioned how nice it would be if Donna's daughter was a bridesmaid, as she loves the two of us so much. I laughed and said that was all set. Remember, Dad? But then I realized he was serious. Like he started throwing out ideas. Replace one of her friends, or we each add a person. I explained that I absolutely was not having this conversation with my fiance, and it wasn't happening. He dropped another bomb. He already told Donna and her daughter that we were figuring it out, but planning on adding her. And she's been so excited lately. I told him no, and it's his fault for saying that, so he has to deal with the situation he created. He started with the whole, just do it for me. You know how much I love Donna. I'll make it up to you. I stayed firm. This is when he started to throw around the idea of not paying for the bar anymore. I haven't brought this up to my fiance yet. I don't want to, because I think it's so outlandish, and it would probably make her feel guilty. She's a people pleaser, and I don't want to add to her stress by telling her about this situation. So I'm wondering if it's an idiot move to tell my dad no to his request. Not the idiot. Tell your dad a firm no and remind him it's a complete sentence. I wouldn't tell him this, but 3 years of dating doesn't mean much. What's going to happen if he and Donna break up? All of your wedding pictures will have your dad's ex-girlfriend's daughter in them. Tell your dad that the bridal party is set and you're looking forward to having Donna and her daughter as guests. And if there are any issues, they're more than welcome not to come. If he doesn't want to pay for the bar, so be it. But don't let him manipulate and blackmail you. I would drink stream water before I let anyone hold paying for a bar at my wedding over my head to force my fiancé to have a last-minute father-nominated bridesmaid. His monkeys, his circus. I'd one-up him, uninvite him. Thanks but no thanks. Your presence is no longer required. He should be the one worrying about hurting you and damaging your relationship. Dude, he doesn't have any problem damaging his relationship with you. It's your wedding. It's the dad's girlfriend's daughter who, from the sounds of it, is not close to anybody in the wedding party. Your dad's an idiot for making promises he has no power to deliver on. He got himself into this, and maybe today is the day you get to watch your dad grow a spine and mature right in front of your eyes. And really, wouldn't that be even better than if he paid for the bar? Good luck, OP. My husband has 2 girls from a previous marriage, Addison tween and Madeline, young tween. He and his ex broke up when she was pregnant with Madeline, and we started dating shortly after. I've been in the girl's life since Addison was a toddler and Madeline was an infant. We have primary custody during the school year. During the summer, they do 3 weeks with us and 1 week at their bio mom's house. Their bio mom has a tween stepdaughter, Lauren, that can be a bit of a bully. Madeline is very shy and has some sensory issues and minor developmental and speech delays, so she's seen as an easy target for Lauren. All 3 girls share a room, so Madeline doesn't really have an escape from Lauren. Last time I picked the girls up, Madeline ran to me and said that Lauren took a lot of her clothes and toys and wouldn't give them back. Their bio mom said Madeline gave them to Lauren, but Addison confirmed that Lauren did take them from Madeline. I was able to get a couple of things back, like her favorite pajamas and stuffed animal, but Lauren and their bio mom wouldn't give anything else back. Their bio mom's house is very close to 2 very nice malls. It's also important to mention that my husband and I are much more well off than their bio mom and her husband. When Lauren and the girls' bio mom wouldn't give the rest of Maddie's stuff back, I promised the girls a shopping spree at the nearby malls. Lauren said she wanted to come, but I told her that she had just gotten a lot of new clothes and toys, so she didn't need to go. She returned a lot more of Maddie's stuff and asked if I could take her now, but the answer was still no. Lauren threw a temper tantrum, and the girl's bio mom decided I was no longer welcome at her house and would only release the girls to their dad, which is against the custody order. My husband is defending me to their bio mom, but he says I was petty and shouldn't have done that. Excuse me? Your husband is saying you're petty for not taking his ex's stepdaughter to the mall after she stole her stuff? No. She stole clothes and refused to give them back. Then their actual mom stood up for the thief. Huge idiot. They only returned some things so she could try going to the mall with you. Is that a joke? I wouldn't have taken her either way. Also, they didn't bring any of their nice things to their mothers anymore. Is there a way you can give her a luggage lock for when she does stay there? Play stupid games and win stupid prizes. If the bio mom refuses to release the kids to you, record her saying this and take her to court. Also, this wasn't petty. You're being a good stepmom. Bio's mom is angry. She has to deal with the aftermath of Lauren's tantrum when she created the monster. It is not your responsibility to take them shopping or buy anything for them, especially when she's stealing from your girls. To make a very long story short, my friend has a sister with some mental issues that I'm not privy to. She got pregnant a little over a year ago and claimed I was the father. I knew this was BS because A, I've never hugged her, let alone had intimacy with her, and B, at the time she would have gotten pregnant, she was staying at a friend's place for a month. She refused a prenatal paternity test, so I was clear I wasn't signing anything or having anything to do with the kid. My parents found out and it got ugly. They said they never raised me to be a deadbeat, said I couldn't drop the ball. Lots of very nasty comments from all three of us, I admit. Finally, when she was about 6 months along, they said they couldn't keep me in their lives if I was trying to skip out on being a dad, and they disowned me. My mom was there when she gave birth, and not long after, a paternity test showed it wasn't mine. My parents had been blowing up my phone, apologizing, offering money, and anything to get me to forgive them. I kept some money they sent me, a few hundred, and said that if they were willing to disown me over that, I would not open myself up to another risk. Most of my friends support me, but a few others, as well as my therapist, said I should give them another chance. Not the idiot. They failed as parents and took the word of a random over the word of their son. If you do end up giving them another chance, make sure they know how badly they screwed up. They showed you who they are. Believe them. They're not on your side and don't deserve another chance. Not to mention, your mom was at the birth? Boy, your parents seem to want this to be true. I think that's precisely what it is. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just wait 3 months to do the DNA test OP is adamant that he's willing to take and decide from there? Why else would you behave so irrationally about this? In my experience, some people act really batcrap crazy and unreasonable about becoming grandparents. Usually it's people who are trying to fill some void from the guilt of how they raised their own kids. I bet money OP's an only child, and now the parents are realizing that they aren't going to get to become grandparents unless OP forgives them. Life is not a romantic film. It's not always the case that an apology fixes everything. Dude, the only person in your shoes is you, nobody else. Therapist, family members, friends, nobody gets to tell you that you should forgive your parents or have contact with them. Get a new therapist ASAP. No professional would tell someone to ignore their boundary in this situation. Not only that, but I would also consider reporting them. It's highly unprofessional and unethical, and who knows how many people might have been harmed by their advice. It's never the role of the therapist to tell you what to do, and this kind of behavior may put many people at risk, especially if someone is a victim. Just a note, when I was 16, my parents gave me a disowning as my 16th birthday present. It came in a nice card and everything. Opened it up and it read, "You're dead to us," and had some accusatory stuff because they didn't like my dad. It was wild. My kid brain didn't understand it, but I reacted in a way they didn't expect. Sort of like you, OP. I wrote them a letter back and said, "Okay, I will respect your disowning of me. I am now dead to you. I understand, but I'm holding you to it. You want me out of your life? Okay, I'm out forever. Don't come back. You did this, so stick to it." Of course, they didn't stick to it. They came back just like your parents. They didn't even have the decency to admit a mistake, though. They just sent me a crate of presents and expected to buy their way back in. No apology needed. I rejected the box of gifts. Most of my family's freaked out about this too. All the people who are making you feel bad about this, they don't know your heart. They'll tell you that you'll regret it, but you won't. Importantly, it's been 35 years since they disowned me, and I've never regretted it. My younger brother, 22, developed a neurological disorder in his teens. When he was old enough, he became my responsibility. He seems just like everyone else, but he needs supervision, and it would be tough for him to live alone. My husband knew this when we started dating. I have told him a billion times, my brother will always be my priority. He understood. My husband and brother's relationship has been decent. My brother doesn't care for him much, and my husband treats him kindly. Like I said, he was pretty understanding. Things started to change a couple of months ago. He's not mean, but he's become distant. I asked him if everything was all right, and he asked me if my brother would ever move out. I told him the truth. Most likely no. Of course, we don't know what the future may hold, but my brother still needs me now. My husband didn't push it. The other day, my husband came home with a few of his coworkers. I was given no warning. I tried calling my brother so he wouldn't be overwhelmed when he came home from his job, but his phone was dead. So when he did come home, he was extremely overwhelmed and I had to take him for a walk. My husband called me several times while we were out on this walk, but I didn't answer. I was a little annoyed, but mostly I was busy with my brother. We went home eventually, and his coworkers had left, thankfully. I was gonna let it go, but my husband yelled at me for embarrassing him in front of his coworkers. I asked him what he meant by that, and he explained that I had a bad attitude with everyone and was very unfriendly. He said I didn't act like his wife, and one of his coworkers made fun of my husband for marrying a poor excuse of a woman. I told him to snap out of it, and he should know better. My husband rolled his eyes and told me I only have my brother in my head and that he's just a second thought. He then called my brother the R slur. This made me extremely angry, so I told him there was no use getting mad at me. He married me, knowing that he'll always be second. He called me insufferable before leaving. Now he's with his mom now, and she's yelled at me for coddling my brother and neglecting my husband. I'm curious and need to let off steam. Am I the idiot? Just in case anyone gets the wrong idea, my husband isn't involved in my brother's care at all, not even financially. I wouldn't put that burden on him. He did go to a few therapy sessions just to understand my brother's disability, but that's it. One parent is deceased. The other is the cause of my brother's problems. The relative who took him in was going to leave him homeless. He has no one else but me. I do have a normal life with normal relationships. I just have extra responsibilities. I have a job, friends, hobbies. I don't have the most time, but that was pretty much expected. No, you're not fooling anyone into thinking you have a normal life with normal relationships. Everyone's the idiot here. You shouldn't have gotten married. You are not marryable. Your husband shouldn't have married you knowing this, and vice versa. Also, your brother's functional enough to work outside the house, but can't even try independence? Do you ever plan to have children? If so, what priorities will shift? Your marriage seems at an impasse, and your husband has an idiotic reaction to the situation, but this seems like a last straw moment. My main question is, do you love your husband, or is he just a side character in your life? It's great that you love and care for your brother, but I don't blame your husband for being upset. You told him he'll always be number 2, but maybe he wants to be number 1, occasionally. What happens if you have children? Are you going to sacrifice your entire life for your brother? Your brother can work independently, but not live independently? What'll happen if you pass before him or get sick? Do you never go on holiday? Do you see children in your future? But most importantly, does your brother really need you? Or have you created an unnecessary codependency that actually hampers his chance at independence? OP, you need to prioritize yourself too. Your life matters too. I, male 38, met my wife 36, 10 years ago when she was a widow with a toddler son. We got married 7 years ago and have a young grammar school-age daughter together. I love my wife and daughter, but I don't feel the same about my stepson, tween. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate or mistreat him. I just don't see him as my son. I am actively involved in his life. I pay for his school, take him to his activities, play with him, and help him when needed. But I don't feel that the connection between us is that of a father and a son. He's more like a nephew than a son to me. My wife knows this and she's unhappy about it. She says he already sees me as a father. What got to me was when she suggested that I legally adopt him and call him my son. She says I'm creating a difference between him and my daughter, which I consider untrue since I try to avoid favoritism. I've suffered from this myself. My parents preferred my younger brother, and I won't make that mistake with him. I'm doing my best to be a good stepfather, but I can't force a feeling that doesn't exist. I don't want to legally adopt him because I don't want to take on a heavy responsibility that isn't mine. I don't want to call him my son because I don't want to lie to him or myself. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. I suggest you talk to a therapist about why you can't feel a connection with the kid you raised. You've been in this kid's life and been his father for a decade, which at this point is the overall majority of it. Not acknowledging him as your son is a major rejection. If you can't figure out the root of the issue, you're going to push him away as he gets older because he'll feel that rejection. I think the root of this problem is only my genetically related children are my actual children. All others I tolerate. So if your wife were to pass away, would you still care for this boy who currently lives with you? No? What is heavy responsibility? He's living with you, and you're paying for things for him. Unless your wife is the one paying extra bills for him, this doesn't make sense. You're showing favoritism, and I bet the poor boy knows you treat him differently than your biological child. I don't want to call him son, because I don't want to lie to him or myself. OP says this a few sentences after saying he avoids favoritism. This poor kid. My heart breaks for him having such a terrible guy as the only father figure he's ever known. Look, you shouldn't adopt him if you're not feeling it. But also, don't be surprised if your wife divorces you over this. My husband and I had a sister and her family staying with us for a month while repairs were carried out on their house. Sister-in-law has 3 kids, a kindergartner, a pre-tween, and a tween. My husband and I have 2 kids, a pre-tween and a preschooler. My sister-in-law and I work from home, so we were both home all day when they stayed with us. So here's what happened. She asked if I could cook for all the kids versus each of us cooking for our respective kids. I told her sure, but explained to her how my kids eat and wanted to know whether she wanted them on the same schedule or whether she wanted a typical 3-meal deal. She said to feed them 3 meals. For context on how I feed my kids, we do smaller meal sizes but eat more often. So pre-meal snacks are big in our family. Seconds are also a thing if we have a hungry day. I also try to mix in a lot of different choices week to week so food is still enjoyable. I know her kids' likes and dislikes with food, so I considered those when making food. But the kids didn't want to eat the stuff I was making. They were upset if it wasn't pizza or burgers, or they were upset about tacos I made at home versus takeout ones. The kids dug in their heels and said that I needed to give them the food they wanted. I told sister-in-law, and she would go feed them. Then she'd get mad that I hadn't given them the food they wanted. I asked her if she wanted to take over feeding her kids, and she said no. It got to the point where the kids stopped coming to the table at meal times. Since sister-in-law was aware of this, I just let it go because I felt like she'd make them come to the table if she was upset by them not eating much. They were in the office with her sometimes when we were eating. The day they were going back home, she turned to me and told me I should be ashamed of myself for letting her kids go without food. My husband told her she was here the whole time and should have done more. He also pointed out we did them a favor and she was acting very ungrateful. A couple of weeks later, she sent me a text saying yet again, I should be ashamed, and how could I refuse to accommodate children? I told sister-in-law it wasn't my job to make her kids eat, and that I had communicated with her while this was going on, but she ignored me and expected me to bend over backward for them. She accused me of cruelty to kids and told me I was an idiot for thinking it wasn't my job to make sure children under my roof were eating enough. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You did make them meals, but the kids didn't eat because they wanted fast food. What more can you do? Your sister-in-law's job is to feed them if they don't eat. You are not her kid's restaurant worker. Next time she can go mooch off another family member. Living rent-free, making zero effort to contribute, and still demanding what the host should feed her kids? Girl, bye. She wanted a vacation from cooking for her kids, but criticized you when it wasn't working and refused to step in. Your sister-in-law is one of those, give her an inch, and she'll scream at you because you didn't also hand over the next 10 miles without complaining. She's the idiot here. She's not appreciative that she was able to stay at your house rent-free instead of at an Airbnb or hotel where she would have had to figure out meals for her kids. Choosy beggars are the worst. Oh well, you know not to bother doing them a favor again. I've been married to my wife for 5 months, living together for almost a year before marriage. My stepdaughter, Ann, teen, used to split time between our parents, but is currently with us full-time, as her father will be overseas until August. I also have a son, Leo, nearly adult, who lives mostly with my ex-wife and with me on the weekends. The kids go to different schools and have a decent relationship. My wife and Ann are great cooks. My wife's parents come from another country, and she and Ann regularly make exotic dishes from their homeland, which are delicious. My son and I appreciate the dishes, though we still have problems learning what's what. A few days ago, Leo stopped by for something he had left. Nobody was home, so he let himself in. Leo said that there was a big pot of stew on the stove, and it smelled delicious, and he asked if he could have some. My wife or Ann often made a huge batch of food when they cooked, so it was nothing surprising. I told Leo to go ahead and just leave some for us. Now, Leo's a wrestler, and he eats a lot. A while later, he sent me a photo showing me how much stew was left in the pot. I could tell there were at least 5 servings left, so I thought nothing of it. An hour later, Ann called me upset. She asked if I had eaten the stew she made. It was a special recipe from her grandma, and she invited her friends over to try it. She said the stew was supposed to feed 9 people, and she invited 6 friends, but someone obviously had eaten almost half of her stew. I told her it was Leo and apologized, telling her she could order pizza for her friends and I would pay for it. Ann said it was poor compensation for her friends looking forward to her stew, which she spent hours preparing, but she did take my offer. When I later apologized and had Leo call to apologize, she said she accepted our apologies, though she's been relatively quiet around me. My wife later told me I should not just allow Leo to eat whatever he wants in our kitchen, as sometimes she and Ann have plans for their dishes. I think it's utterly ridiculous that Leo's not allowed to eat things from his own father's kitchen, and if my wife or Ann has a special plan for their food, they should put a note on it. Otherwise, things in the kitchen should be up for grabs, as the kitchen is a communal space for food, and I pay for most of the groceries. I think if Leo's not allowed to have the food, then it's like he's not a part of the family. I am willing to talk to him about portion control, but other than that, I think he should be able to eat what he wants in the kitchen, unless there's a note saying not to. Am I the idiot? Was putting a note on it a previous rule, or did you make that up to excuse your rudeness? Do you do the meal plan for each week? deciding what to cook and how much to buy to serve all? Do you do all the grocery shopping? Do you cook every meal? Did you cook this one? Did you replace the ingredients so she can make it again, or ask what she wants to make next time? He took half a pot of food that you thought was meant for 3 people staying there and turned out to be 9 portions worth. That's simply inconsiderate. You are the idiot, and you and your son have no manners. Prepared food that is still cooking is not up for grabs before the meal. Of course, since you rarely cook, you don't appreciate their effort. It's unbelievably rude just to declare a dish for everyone. I can't imagine cooking a dish for friends and a family member just assuming that they can eat half. It's not how it works. I'm leaving the son out of it because he asked, which is the correct thing to do. You would assume your father would know whose food it is and not just assume. I think it's the dad who needs to cook more. Yeah, the dude knew his son had a wrestler's appetite. He could have ordered a large pizza for his son instead of ruining his stepdaughter's dinner party plans. This reeks of good old-fashioned male chauvinism with the side of weaponized incompetence.